Who else wants to know about a token that can 100 to 1000x? Also, how that token, its utility, gives you 0% interest-free DeFi liquidity for really anything, whether it's investing into more crypto, purchasing a house, purchasing a car, consolidating debt, whatever it is. And also we're going to talk about how you could pay literally no tax on your crypto ever again. I made a huge mistake in selling way too early. I sold the Ethereum back in December 2020, right at $750. I sold off about 550 Ethereum, paid a huge tax bill on that. Ethereum obviously went over 4,000. I lost out on millions of dollars. So you're going to learn from my mistakes in this video. I had Jesse, the pit boss, one of the team members of Liquid Loans, on this call. There was loads of value. We're going to talk about why it's important to borrow. So we're going to show you exactly how Liquid Loans can be the solution to many of your problems in crypto. So make sure, number one, like this video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, because on this channel we talk about DeFi, passive income, and really anything in between that's going to help you reach more fulfillment, more wealth, and overall more freedom. So please subscribe, drop the video like, and also here's a little intro to Liquid Loans before we get into the actual interview and AMA with Jesse. So check. So I'm really excited today because if I knew about this a year and a half ago, it would have saved me millions. But because I didn't know about it, I ended up losing millions. Still have made some decent gains in crypto. But what Jesse's going to share tonight, I'm really, really excited about. He's on the team of Liquid Loans. He's going to kind of tell you, about it, how it works, why it's so powerful. And if you were like me back in late 2020, when you sold your Bitcoin, you sold your Ethereum, you had to pay tax on it. And then you realized, holy crap, there's actually, places out there where I can simply just stake my crypto. I can earn rewards. I can take out loans. I don't have to pay tax. That kind of stuff I think is life changing because most, the wealthiest people are actually doing that. So
free money, baby.
Yeah, everybody give a warm welcome to Jesse, the pit boss. Jesse, great to have you on, man. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Let me just make sure Jesse is asked to mute. I think it muted him when there we go. You're unmuted, Jesse.
All right, hey, how you doing, y'all? So yeah, my name's Jesse, and I'm a core member of what's called the Liquid Loans protocol. And what it is a decentralized lending and borrowing protocol. There's no admin keys. There's no counterparty risk. Your keys, your coins, and you can collateralize your crypto and mint yourself some stablecoin off of that, the value of your collateral. And then you're free to do whatever you want with that. And why you would want to do something like that is because then you capture all the future price appreciation of that collateral. I like to give an example of, like, a lot of people have heard of the Bitcoin pizza guy, I think people call him. Back in the day, he spent some Bitcoin on pizza. He took a picture with his kids and he said, look what I bought, with my Bitcoin. And he was really proud of being able to buy that pizza with some Bitcoin. Now, had he not sold, that same Bitcoin would have just, it obviously throughout the years just continued to appreciate in price through all those years, right? So if he had just held a little bit longer, he could have bought more than just some pizzas. He could have bought a car. And if he held through that, he could have bought a house. And if he didn't spend it on buying a house, he could have bought an island eventually. Okay. Now, this is what the power of collateralizing your appreciating asset allows you to do. For example, he could have collateralized some Bitcoin. If this was available to him back then, he could have collateralized against his Bitcoin and bought that pizza. And as his collateral continued to go up in value, that same exact Bitcoin that he bought pizza with, he would have bought a car. And then later he could have bought a house and an island and whatever he wanted to. Or he could have invested the loans that he was minting, right? So he would have grown his wealth. All right. So that's why you would want to collateralize. There's other facets of the liquid loans protocol that there's no interest. Instead, there's a one-time borrowing fee. That fee doesn't go to us. It goes to the community of stakers of the native coin of this protocol. So like participants in the protocol are the ones that also collect the fees from the protocol. So that's pretty much liquid loans. We're going to go a little bit deeper and dive into how all that works. But I do need to explain a little bit about PulseChain. So liquid loans is going to launch on a upcoming blockchain called PulseChain. It's built by Richard Hart. It's a fork of Ethereum. It's different than some of the other forks that you might be familiar with, like Avalanche, like Phantom Chain, like Matic, like Binance Smart Chain. It's different because it's a complete system state fork. And what that means is all of the existing tokens that you have in your wallet and all of the contracts and everything that run on Ethereum chain, they're all coming with it. So when the fork happens and PulseChain goes live, you will actually have a copy of all your coins already waiting for you over on the PulseChain, ready for you to go swap and do whatever you want. You'll find that there'll be a DEX over there, PulseX. You'll find Uniswap, and you can just go swap and do the normal things that you do over on Ethereum, and you already have those copies of those coins. And there's already liquidity waiting because the liquidity pool ratios were also copied, right? So everything's over there. You're welcome to go play around. It's cheaper, it's faster, and it is a proof of stake blockchain. So it uses validator nodes as opposed to a proof of work blockchain, which is very inefficient, like Ethereum is, right? So it's taken all of Ethereum and transplanted it onto a faster, cheaper blockchain, and it's put all of your things there waiting for you to go interact. Okay, so it's unique, and I think it's going to draw a lot of attention when people realize that their current assets are waiting for them. We literally could see, the thousands upon thousands of people that are, participating in Ethereum chain, come over and see what's going on the Pulse chain. Okay, so that's the blockchain we're launching on. That blockchain mainnet is probably around 1.5 to 2 months away, right? Rough guess, right? There's been many months of work putting that together. I'm not a core member of that team that's built that blockchain. That is a Richard Hart project. But Liquid Loans is, my project that is launching on the Pulse chain. So
that's awesome. I mean, I'm really looking forward to this all happening, because if anybody has seen the fees on Ethereum right now, I mean, they're outrageous. Like, I don't even hang out. Fortunately enough, when I really got heavily into crypto, I was more exposed to like Pancake Swap and the Binance Smart Chain, and I just stayed there because, I mean, just like cost to, that's involved in minting, an NFT or just a simple transaction, or when I'm depositing into Binance and then sending from Binance to another exchange, I'm paying like a $50 fee, regardless of how much, tether I have in there. So even if we get a fraction of that over to PulseChain, that's going to be super powerful, which I believe, I mean, it's just going to happen organically. I mean, supposedly there's going to be more liquidity over there. Like you said, faster transaction times. So I think it's kind of a no brainer. And then adding what you're offering on top of that is unbelievable. So just to add to that, super, super excited.
So what do you want to hear? So let's do a little bit of a deep dive into how liquid loans works, if you'd like. So there's three parts of liquid loans. You've got the borrowers, you've got the stability depositors, and then you have the stakers. Okay, three parts: borrowing, stability depositing, staking. All right. Now, as a borrower, you would come in, you would put in some PulseCoin, which is the native coin of the blockchain. It's the safest asset to use. It's got the most liquidity. There's literally thousands of token pairings. People have asked, well, can we collateralize SHIB, or can we collateralize this or that or this or that? And the answer is no, right? Because usually there's only one or two liquidity pools, and there's risk involved. With you don't want manipulation, right? So you need to pick something that can be collateralized that has the thickest liquidity, and that's always going to be the native coin of a blockchain. Okay, so PulseCoin is a native coin, right? So you can take your PulseCoin and you can put it into a vault. Now, it's your wallet address. It's just a smart contract that you interact with. We call it a vault, but it's like just your little place in your wallet address that you just tuck it away, and that becomes the collateral for you to mint some stablecoin off of that value. Okay, so let's say you wanted, a $2,000 loan. Okay, you could put in $5,000, you could put in 2,200, you could put in 20,000. You put in as much as you'd like. Up and over $2,000, you have to have a 10% buffer in there. So you would have to have at least $2,200 worth of backing. Now that's risky. That's really risky if you went that low. So choose to safely collateralize, but you put in some PulseCoin and you simply mint yourself some stablecoin. The act of minting comes with a fee. It's a very small fee. 0.5% is typically what it'll be. That does fluctuate around. It goes up to as high as 5%, depending on the health of the system. Because the system will always encourage safe collateral levels. It'll encourage borrowing when borrowing makes the most sense for the stability of the ecosystem.
So Jesse, does that automatically configure for you? Like, does it show?
Yes, automatically.
Okay, so it'll show like how much risk is involved, like if it's more aggressive or more, just depending on, like, for example, how would you know if let's say you have $5,000 and you borrowed 3,500, for example, it's going to show you exactly how risky that might be and your chances of margin calls or liquidation.
Yeah, so liquidation. So the liquidation point is always at 110% of what you mint. So let's say you mint yourself $2,000, okay? And let's say you put in let's go crazy here. Let's say you put in $100,000 worth of collateral, right? You're very, very over collateralized, like super over collateralized. Okay. Let's say there's a black swan event, and then over a period of months, you know, PulseCoin just goes down and down and down, which we don't expect it to do. But like there are 75, 80, 90% dips in crypto. These things do happen. All right. So let's say the value of your collateral just goes down and down and down. If it goes down far enough and it gets all the way down to $2,200 worth of value, like you will lose your collateral. It's going to be gone. It will leave and it'll go to some other people in the protocol. But you already got your stable coin. You got it up front. Now, like you have many options. The system only cares about locking 110% of the value of what you've minted. So you've got this stable coin. You're running around with $2,000 doing whatever you're doing with it, right? The only thing the protocol cares about is locking $2,200 worth of value away. So let's say you have 100 grand worth of Pulse. You can withdraw all that excess if you wanted to. You can add to it. You can put more PulseCoin in. You can mint additional stablecoin if you want. So if you see, oh, I'm super over collateralized, I've got 100 grand worth of Pulse in there. Let me go ahead and mint myself some more. Let me mint another 10 grand or 20 grand, whatever makes you feel good. Just mint more. Or if you want to pay back, you can bring stablecoin back and just pay it back. And of course, your collateral health will go up and down based on how much value in Pulse that you have as collateral versus how much debt that you have. The only thing that you ever owe is the USDL that you've minted. So like your debt never increases as your collateral increases in value, right? Your debt always remains, you mint 2 grand, that's your debt. You owe 2 grand. You mint 5 grand, the only thing you ever owe is 5 grand. But if your collateral continues to go up in value, you effectively don't have to pay it back. Like there's no time limit. There's no interest payment. The protocol only cares that the value backing what you minted is there. So let me go through another scenario. You mint yourself 2 grand. You have like 6 grand worth of collateral. What is that, like 300%? That's pretty healthy on some accounts. Some people choose to collateralize way healthier than that, but 300% would typically be okay. Let's say that the price goes up, the value of Pulse goes up, and it does a 10x. You were 600% collateralized. Now you're 6,000% collateralized. So you have a choice. You're like, look at all this Pulse that I'm sitting there. Like, you don't want to sell that. There's taxes that come along with selling. Like, you're just withering your coin count away if you were to sell, right? So you're left with some choices. Just mint yourself some extra stablecoin. Just continue minting stablecoin behind that appreciating price. And here's the big difference between borrowing and selling. The math starts to get ridiculous. Let's pretend you're a seller and I'm a borrower. Okay, so you're a seller, and let's say let's say we're holding a coin that's worth like $1 or something. Okay, we'll call it random coin. So you've got random coin, I've got some random coin. At this point in time, they're worth $1, and we each have 100,000 of them. Okay, cool. And that's what we each invested into it. Okay, now let's say this random coin does a 2x, and you call me up and you say, hey man, I'm gonna get my initial out, because this is what you hear this everywhere across the internet. Always get your initial out. Make sure you take profits. Take profits, people. And like you hear it shouted from the rooftops, and it's absolutely ridiculous. Okay, so watch what happens. The price goes up, you take your profits, you sell half your bag, and you feel good about it. You feel good because you're grand and you still have your initial in there. And I say, what are you doing, man? How many coins do you have left? And you say, well, I got 50,000 coins. I say, what the heck are you doing, man? Because I still have my original 100,000 coins and I have 200 grand. Now you also have 200 grand, you sold some, but you only have 50,000 coins. They're gone. You will never capture that, the future appreciating price of your coins, because you just got rid of them. Okay, now it does it again, right? Doubles again, because these things happen in crypto. Doubles and it doubles again and it doubles again, especially with a new blockchain, right? A 250x is not unusual at all for a new blockchain. In fact, Matic, I think in the past year and a half did a 400x. We've seen 800x out of Binance. I don't know, a 6 or 8. We've seen ridiculous numbers out of Cardano, even though it's kind of like a stable coin lately. That's what it feels like.
Right.
Like these things happen, right? We see 50x, 100x, 800x out of blockchain native coins. So we should see something similar behavior out of PulseCoin. Okay, so if you're holding that, and as it goes up in value, you're selling and you feel good, but all you're doing is cutting your coin count down and down and down. You're just shaving it away, just chopping away until there's nothing left. But I'm over here and I'm holding, but I'm not only holding, I'm literally putting it in a vault and I'm collateralizing behind it. The numbers start to become exponentially like further and further away from each other. Okay, so there is some math that we go through. 20 grand. Let's say, how do we do this one? All right, 20 grand, $20,000. You start with 20 grand. I start with 20 grand. Let's pretend that we went through 10 doublings, and every time the price doubled, you sold half your bag. Okay, what does 10 doublings look like? Well, after 10 doublings, you would have sold 10 times, so you would have 200,000, and you would have 20,000 still in there, but your coin count would have been cut in half 20 times, right? So the only thing you have to show for it after 10 doublings in the price is $220,000. You started with 20 grand. You call me up and you say, hey man, 10 doublings. I'm like, man, you should be a billionaire by now. And you say, no, I got 220,000. And I laugh at you. I'm like, that doesn't make any sense, because 10 doublings sounds like a lot, but dude, you were shaving half your bag every time you but this is what people tell you to do, man. This is what the biggest crypto influencers tell you to do. And it's not in your best interest, because the wealthiest people in the world simply collateralize their appreciating asset. Now let's take that same math. I have 20 grand. I put it in a vault and I mint myself, let's say $2,000, $2 grand. Okay, I am 1,000% collateralized. I just get a simple 2 grand. Let's say the price is obviously doing the same thing for me that it did for you. So what does 10 doublings of 20 grand look like? Let's do that on this calculator. Times 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. All right, that's $20,480,000 that I have as collateral in my vault, because I never sold. The price doubled 10 times, and I turned that into over $20 million. Okay, the same thing happened to you, and price doubled 10 times, and you sold every doubling, and all you have to show for it is 220,000. Okay, now, but that's not all I have, because every time the price doubled, I had my $2,000 loan. The price doubled in my $2,000 loan. I said, let me draw some more up, and I got a $4,000 loan, and then I got an $8,000 loan, and then I got a $16,000 loan. I chased that loan behind the appreciating price of my asset, and then I had all this. I had a couple $1 million worth of loan stablecoin that I had minted, And I go and I do other things with that. I bought real estate with it. I bought this crypto over here with it. I put it into this other protocol over here, and I've turned that into even more. So not only do I have like it's insane. It is insane the difference when you simply don't sell. You never sell. And this is good debt. There's a difference between being poor and trying to pay your bills with debt. And then when the money comes in, you have to pay back your debt. There's a difference between that and then having assets that just appreciate and you just drawing debt out behind that and never paying it back. There's a huge difference, right? So that's the long form version of the borrowing side of this protocol. All right. The other side of this is the stability pool. You've got this pool that you can participate in. You can put stable coins into it. Those are there. You're there as a stability depositor. As somebody who's put stablecoin into this giant pool, there'll be thousands and thousands of other participants. You're there to absorb any liquidations if they do happen. So if the value of any of those vaults over there does fall and it falls within like the range of within 10% of what that person minted, all right, those people would lose their PulseCoin. It has to go over to the stability depositors and get spread. The PulseCoin gets spread across them as a community. They all collectively, like, based on your share in the pool, your size in that pool, the stability pool, you will pick up some of those PulseCoin. And your USDL that you put into that stability pool, a little bit of that burns itself. Now, this mechanism is no different than if somebody pays back their own loan. It's really no different. So if you were a borrower and you paid back a loan, all you did was bring back your stablecoin, which is burns itself, and it releases that equivalent value plus that 10% that the protocol had locked. Like the part that it cared about, the part that it cared about retaining in the vault, right? So you paying back a loan burns the stablecoin, releases some pulse. If there's a liquidation, the same thing is happening. It's just happening over here with this pool of stability depositors. People have put in stablecoin. The pulse over here migrates over to these guys. They collectively, it gets split up amongst all of them, and a little bit of their stablecoin burns instead. That's the only difference. So in the stability pool, they would actually be picking up some pulse if there's a big severe market dip that ends up liquidating somebody. So they're getting pulse in a market dip, but they're also getting it at a 10% discount off of that because of that little spread I told you about where the liquidation point's at 110%. So they're getting pulse in a discount or in a market dip plus a 10% discount. So that's an incentive of sitting in there. Now, liquidations aren't going to happen every day. There may even be weeks that go by where there's no liquidations. So these guys have to have another incentive to be in there. And that's this thing called the loan token. Loan token is emitted or released to the stability depositors. The rate at which it's released goes through halving. So once a year, the rate at which it's emitted gets literally cut in half. Year after year after year. It gets harder to obtain over time. But what do these people do with that loan token? They put it into this thing called the staking pool, which is that third part of this protocol. They put it in there. Now they become the fee collectors. So there's a borrowing fee when you take a loan, 0.5%. It goes straight to the stakers of the loan token. There's also this thing called the redemption fee. I do want to touch on redemptions because it's how value is pegged back to $1, like how the stable coin stays at $1. But there's a redemption fee as well. People choose to redeem. That fee comes out in the native coin of the blockchain. That's Pulse. And that also goes to the stakers of the loan token. Right. So stakers collect all the fees. Now, what happens to the fees? Loans will get bigger and bigger over time. as this crypto asset, as PulseCoin just goes up in price, the loans will get bigger and bigger and bigger, which means the fees get bigger and bigger and bigger, which means the stakers collect more and more and more over time. But simultaneous to that, the loan tokens that anybody is able to obtain, like it gets harder and harder and harder over time to get your hands on them. As more and more people come into the protocol, there's some dilution amongst you and other wallet addresses in the stability pool. So the loan token rewards that are emitted to the stability pool, like you get less and less of them over time, but then there's the halvings too. So it does make sense to get in really early and get your hands on as many loan tokens as you possibly can if you would like to be a fee collector in the protocol. And once you stake these things, like you have income for the rest of your life. People aren't going to stop taking loans. Loans are a real thing. Like it's not just like people are going to snap their finger and like decide like all these thousands of people, nobody's ever going to take loans again. Loans are always going to be around. So there's always going to be people taking loans. You're always going to be collecting the fees from that. But you can only collect the fee if you have your hands on the loan token. Now, how does the stablecoin retain its peg? Well, we know that you put in collateral, you mint yourself some stablecoin, right? But if you understand how liquidity pools work on dexes such as Uniswap, PulseX, 1inch Matcha, all these different dexes, you've got a token on each side of the pool, right? And they're at a ratio. And when you swap, you're depositing on one side and you're withdrawing from the other. And like you actually have what's called slippage. Slippage is really high if it's thin liquidity, it's low if there's tons and tons of liquidity in there. But like you're offsetting the ratios when you swap one thing for another. Okay. Now there's this thing called Hart's law. The two halves of the pool are always worth each other. Right? So whatever's on this side of a liquidity pool, it's the same dollar value as the things on the other side of the pool, even though the quantities may be different. So let's say the value of PulseCoin does a little dip. A 20% market dip pretty quickly, right? In a day or something. You will actually see stable coins. You saw this on ETH with the liquidity protocol. You saw it with USDC, Tether, all these other stable coins. You actually saw this just a couple weeks ago, where ETH dropped in value literally by 20%, and so did the stable coins. That's because ETH is tied back to Bitcoin on exchanges and stuff, right? So when Bitcoin dumped, ETH went with it. But because in those liquidity pools, ETH is tied to USDC, it's paired. And if ETH dumps 20%, the value of the stable coins also dump 20%. So you see something that's supposed to cost $1 now costs 80 cents. Like this is not unusual. This is just how liquidity pools work. Because the values across the two sides of a pool have to be the same. Now, what normally happens is there's supposed to be an arbitrage event when that happens. Unfortunately, with fiat-backed stablecoins, regular everyday Joes cannot participate in that game. They make it very hard. The institutions such as Coinbase, Circle or Tether, they make it very hard for you to make any profits in those events, right? So when ETH dumps, USDC dumps, you would think, oh, sweet, there's 80 cent USDC. Let me go buy some. Good luck. Like you could, and then you could just sit on it, and then it will eventually be worth $1 again. But you could have just held ETH because it would also recover, right? So you like, what are you actually gaining? You swapped ETH that was in a dip for USDC that was in a dip, and they're both going to recover at some point, right? So it's like it's really pointless. But what you could have done is, well, why didn't you buy the 80 cent USDC and send it to Coinbase and cash it out immediately for $1 worth of fiat. Well, you could try, but they won't let you. Like you'll send it to Coinbase and you'll click the button, sell for fiat, and it'll just sit there pending. And you'll come back like an hour later. How come my transaction hasn't cleared? Why does it still say pending? Well, that's because they're not going to give you $1 worth of fiat for something you bought for 80 cents. They're not going to let you. That's their coin. They control that. They are an issue of that. So they'll just sit on it and wait while they're arbitraging it, making profits, until it makes more sense for them to, okay, all right, it's back up to 95 cents or 97 cents. Okay, let's give it. Then you'll see that your transaction clears. And now you still possibly made some money, but they're not going to give it to you before they make a bunch of money on top of you first. Okay, so this is where this is just one game that centralized big institutions play on people. Like they have all the control. They also have keys to their coins. They can turn them off at any point, which has happened on a couple occasions. There's counterparty risk there's governments that don't like these stable coins right now because there's like fiat-backed stable coins, because you're taking taxpayer dollars and you're literally collateralizing that, and in some cases fractionalized reserving the coins and stuff. So there's a lot of silly games that are happening with fiat-backed stable coins. You're going to see more and more regulation, literally, because these institutions are playing around with taxpayer dollars and then creating imaginary taxpayer dollars in the crypto world, and the governments don't like it, right? So like February 8th, there's some government hearing in Washington about this, and it's just going to get uglier and uglier because these governments have to have their hands in the pot. Okay, so alternatively, you have these algorithmic things like DAI or like liquidity, which is what Liquid Loans is a fork of, that are not like, there's no fiat at play here. Now, while the stable coin may be worth $1 worth of something, so it has the appearance of being $1, it's not actually backed by $1 at all. It's backed by $1 worth of Pulse, or in the case of liquidity, $1 worth of ETH. Right, so the code is immutable. It's unchangeable. No government can step in and say you're screwing around with taxpayer dollars. No government can step in and say turn off the code. It's too late. It's running on the blockchain. It's unstoppable. All right. You can arbitrage because remember I told you. All right, so I explained how the prices will move around with stable coins. You can play that game in this decentralized protocol. So if the native coin, PulseCoin, drops in value, all you have to do, or anybody else, is go buy it up. You go buy the stable coin from the DEX, changes the ratios in those pools, and you literally bring it back up to $1. Like, you would be stupid not to. If you saw 90-cent stable coin, you should probably go try and buy it. If you whatever price it is under $1. Why?
Essentially like getting like a stable coin at a discount.
Yes,
Right?
because every single USDL that's ever minted is fully backed and redeemable for $1 worth of Pulse. Every single one of them. So if you can buy something over here for 90 cents and immediately come into the protocol and get $1 worth of Pulse that's in a dip, that's in some sort of 10% or 20% dip, you would be an idiot not to do that. So what you end up seeing in the liquidity protocol on ETH is that LUSD that they're using, that stablecoin, while it loses peg in big ETH market dips, the same as USDC loses peg, that LUSD almost instantly goes back to $1 because people instantly buy it up and redeem it back into the protocol for $1 worth of ETH, and it's got its peg back. Liquid Loans is no different. It is the most stable coin that you will find, the most stable coin out of all of them. It's called LUSD over on the ETH chain, USDL on the Pulse chain. Where does the pulse come from? Where does the dollar worth of pulse come from when you choose to redeem? It actually comes from the lowest collateralized vault. The guy who was about to be liquidated because he was under collateralized, and he was probably looking at his wallet, freaking out, thinking, oh my gosh, we're in a market dip. I'm about to lose those pulse coin that I wanted to hold on to. And all of a sudden he'll see his debt was paid off for him. Some benevolent entity just came in and paid his debt for him. That's what's happening in a redemption. The USDL that you just bought, that you're redeeming for $1 worth of pulse, it will look at the lowest collateralized vault that's nearest liquidation. It'll clear the debt from that guy. It'll take those pulse coin, give it to you, and it'll burn that USDL that you're redeeming. That guy never was liquidated. He never lost that extra 10%. Even if it didn't clear his complete debt, it actually made his collateral health better. Even if it was just a partial redemption against that vault, his collateral health just went from like 110 to maybe 112 or 115 or 120 or something. The act of being redeemed against increases your collateral health and saves you from liquidation. The system is always, so even in severe market dips external to this ecosystem, the liquid loans protocol health gets better. It takes, the crash in the market outside of it, and it says, how do we increase the collateral health inside? And it takes this redemption mechanism and it starts increasing the collateral health of the entire ecosystem, starting at the lowest collateralized vault. That's how a redemption works, and that's how every single USDL is directly redeemable for $1 for the pulse.
Wow. Dude, that's awesome. It's almost like you can't lose, regardless of where you're at. I built my whole portfolio, believe it or not, off of borrowed money. That's how I started in this. That's how I built it to where it's at right now. So everybody that's on this call, I mean, there's a lot, Jesse, you covered in the past 54 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm excited to get access to this when it's released. So what's kind of like the timeline for this?
Yeah, so PulseChain has to exist. We're running on testnet now. We're going to open up a public testnet soon, so everyone can play around with the protocol on the PulseChain. But I know a lot of the community here, they don't even know what PulseChain is, right? They may know what ETH is or Phantom Chain or some other thing. Mm-hmm. But PulseChain is going to feel a lot like Ethereum, but it's going to feel a lot faster. All right. But come learn the protocol. You can come to our Telegram that is just growing by a lot daily. That's t.me/liquid loans. There's thousands and thousands of people there. Every single question gets answered. t.me/liquid loans. It's just a big public chat where people can post graphs, pictures, and strategies. There's all sorts of strategies the communities come up with. There's a live voice chat in there. People are always talking and asking questions and having questions answered. We have a great admin group, right? So everything gets answered. We also have a website with tons and tons of resources, liquidloans.io. You can learn exactly how the protocol works. If you search liquid loans on YouTube, you'll see we got just tons of videos that just bring you through the protocol and explain all these different aspects. Some of them with little graphics and stuff just to help you out. So what's the timeline on this? Well, PulseChain doesn't exist yet. There is an opportunity to participate early. We call that a sacrifice phase. So like you can voice your opinion about centrally backed stablecoins. Stand up in opposition of centrally backed stablecoins, fiat backed stablecoins that have a lot of counterparty risk, that are not immutable, where those big institutions do have admin keys. And you can say, you know what, I'm going to throw these away. And in an act of free speech, you can just throw those away to a wallet address that'll be provided to you later. In the hopes that this better system will emerge later. Right? The wording may sound very strange.
You put that beautifully, just so you know. You did.
And then you hope that a better algorithmic stablecoin lending platform will appear here in a few months. That's just much better and community driven, where the stakers of the loan token, who would be the same addresses initially as those that threw away all their centrally backed stablecoins, can then collect the fees. So, and there's a couple different there's bonuses, right? So there's going to be so during the sacrifice phase, it's going to be 30 days long. It's the first 10 days gets 10,000 points per sacrifice dollar. The rate gets cut by 5% every day thereafter.
Do you know when the
and then there's also say that again?
Do you know when that the sacrifice phase actually starts?
Yeah, very soon. Very
Okay.
soon.
Cool.
So like right now we're actually in a referral stage where people can grab a referral link. For those that are curious about that, that is an extra bonus that you can get for you and the people you bring in. You can read all about that at liquidloans.io. There's a little button for it.
Yeah, and I'll include all these links that Jesse's talking about below. I did make a video about the referral system previously. So huge incentive for other people to jump on board. If you guys have any level of influence, you're on YouTube. I know I got a lot of people that follow me that do have your own YouTube channels. So I'll link the information about the sacrifice, the referral program, liquid loans, the Telegram group, all that stuff will be below in the description. So cool.
So yeah, we talked about the early pays better, 10,000 points per sacrifice dollar in the first 10 days of the sacrifice period. It's going to decrease every day thereafter. That encourages people just to get in early, so you don't miss it. But then there's a bigger pays better bonus. So like the bigger you come in as a total, like the bigger of a bonus you'll get applied to your points. So if you're the biggest of the biggest whale, like you'll be up there near the 2.5x bonus. If you come in with like one single dollar or something at the bottom, like you're gonna get like almost nothing, like 1.0001x or whatever that ends up being. So there's a range in there. You'll literally get a bonus of 1x all the way out to 2.5x for the size of the bag that you bring in. And then there's one more bonus that comes along, and that's a longer pays better. You could actually choose to lock up your points for a period of time, anywhere between 0 months out to 2 years. If you locked up for a full 24 months, it would end up equating to a 2.5x. Now remember, there's already a 2.5x for a volume bonus or for a size bonus. We don't know where you're going to fall in line, right? You might just be a regular guy with, $1,000 or something, right? Who knows? Maybe you'll get a 1.2, 1.3x for that. Okay. But if you're unhappy with the quantity of points that you might have, you may say, well, I'd like to lock up for a period of time. So you can lock up for, all the way up to 2 years and get an even bigger bonus. So the details on that, you can find them on our Telegram, t.me/liquid loans. This stage is going to open very soon. It's going to come real fast. Like I said, we're in the full stage now. We're going to launch our public testnet so people can play around with the protocol, and like any day now that's going to happen, and then our sacrifice phase is going to open.
Awesome, man. That's amazing. I appreciate your time today, man. You've got a vast amount of knowledge in the space, so we're so blessed to have you on here. Are you okay to take a few questions from a few people here?
Yeah, absolutely. And people can ask anything. You can ask how PulseChain is going to work. You can ask how liquid loans is going to work.
Sweet.
Yeah, ask away, ask anything.
Awesome. So if you guys have any questions, just go ahead and throw them in the chat. You'll probably have somebody come out too. If you guys raise your hand, I'm not sure if you can exactly raise your hand here. If you're able to do that, you can go ahead and do that too. Or just throw a question in the chat and let us know. Let's see here. So Mark asks, what's your take on US? I think he's assuming USDT. It says UST versus USDL.
Well,
Or USD Terra
okay.
is what it is.
All right. I'm not going to single out any one stablecoin, but I will describe what a lot of stablecoins do. So there are some stablecoins where you can mint them off of collateral, and that, like, which is how they all should work. That's how liquid loans works. That's how liquidity works. But some protocols require you to buy their native coin and use that as the collateral to mint a stable coin. Those protocols tend to require very, very high collateralization levels. And the liquidation points are like huge, right? Like some of them, 600% is the required collateral. And that's where the liquidation point is. So like if you're ever liquidated, you literally lose 6x your bag that you got. It's stupid.
Wow.
But the reason they do that is because the collateral that they allow is very volatile. Because there's only one or two liquidity pools you'll find it on. They're very easily manipulated by the whales because like there's only one or two token pairings for it. And it's a very speculative asset. It's not like the most liquid thing on the chain, like the Ethereum coin, right? So like you want to stay away from those kind of protocols that have some weird token and that's the only thing they allow is collateral. Stay away from those. Now there's other protocols that if there is a liquidation, it takes that collateral and sends it straight to Uniswap, where a bot literally market dumps it. That's not healthy because that leads or could lead to cascading liquidations, right? So when you have collateral that just like, oh, there's a liquidation over here, so let's further dump the price of the collateral so it liquidates the next guy. That's retarded. Like that's stupid because, but that's how these things work. That's also how it works on these centralized exchanges like KuCoin and Bybit and stuff in the futures market. That's how you see these big scam wicks because that's what ends up happening, cascading liquidation because it auto sells. You know, this guy gets liquidated, auto dumps the collateral, which triggers the next guy's liquidation because the price just
And then
keeps
just
going down
and down and
Right.
down.
So you want to stay away from protocols that have auto dumping of the collateral. Okay. You also want to stay away from protocols that simply inflate or deflate, continuously up and down just to try and stabilize the price. You want this. You remember how I explained how like the value like always pegs back to $1? It's simple arbitrage. That's it. Simple arbitrage. Like that's the kind of stable coin you want, where like people simply just buy it and then redeem back, and it just pegs the value back to $1. Let's see. I actually have a list of some of these protocols and like what's broken about some. Oh, multi-asset collateralization. We believe that it's best to have one single asset that's collateral. and the native coin of the chain. Because no matter what, as long as the chain exists, that thing will have value and it will be relatively stable. Have you ever noticed how Ethereum is like kind of boring compared to all the ERC20s on the chain? Like Ethereum will go through like, 4% up and 2% down, 7%. Like it'll just kind of go do its thing. Every now and then it'll have like some weird 20% dip. But meanwhile, in this entire time, you'll have these ERC20s that everyone's speculating with, and they'll do like a 15% up, 30% down, 2x, and like 90% dump. Like, in these ERC20s are just going berserk. But Ethereum is kind of just, it's not a stable coin, but it's just doing its thing. It's just kind of chugging along. That is the kind of asset you want to be collateral. Otherwise, people just get liquidated for no reason. Like it's way too speculative, and you're putting people at risk if you're collateralizing anything other than something that just chugs along. Let's look up another one. Let's look up. Okay, what is counterparty risk? A lot of people don't even know what counterparty risk is. It's the risk to each party of a contract that one of those parties will not live up to its obligations. Immutable code, such as liquid loans, it's impossible. It's written in code. That code will live up to its obligation. You are literally your own counterparty. There's nobody else that can like screw something up for you. But with coins such as True USD, I happen to like True USD for a couple of reasons, but onboarding or on-ramping and off-ramping. But there is some counterparty risk in it. USDC, Paxos, Binance US Dollar, Gemini Dollar, even DAI, simply because they're the only ones that run the front end for it. Nobody else runs a front end, and they can turn that front end off at any time. A lot of people don't realize that. So there is counterparty risk even with DAI, even in the code is not immutable because there's a governance feature to it, so people can come together and vote and change the code. And who has all the voting privileges? Like 3% of the holders, because they're the giant whales, right? So there's risk even with DAI.
How about USDT?
Tether is highly Tether's fractionally reserved. Like not every single one of them is backed. They've come under a lot of scrutiny for that. They've also refused to disclose all their holdings that are backing the value of all their USDT. So they like USDT will come in, like be minted into existence and end up in the markets. But there's no documentation anywhere, the backing for that USDT. So usually there's manipulation behind that sort of behavior. And it's completely out of our control. And it very well could be. I'm not saying it will be, but it could be a house of cards. Okay, so you want to get away from these sort of counterparty risks in case it is a house of cards. All right, synthetics. I said I wasn't going to name things, but I guess I am. So synthetics, instead of holding a diversified basket of crypto assets, what synthetics does, it issues SUSD against its own pile of SNX token. They call this thing the equity token. In other words, kind of like I described earlier, the only asset that synthetics allows you to deposit as collateral is its own token. So they require you to go buy from them, which helps them, which they end up dumping on you, right? They benefit because you buy it. And then they say, oh, go take that thing that you just bought from us and go use it as collateral and mint yourself some stable coin. Meanwhile, they just benefited because you pumped the price for them. Okay, so other people, other participants in the synthetics network are dumping on you, and it really hurts your collateral, and people end up getting liquidated. It's horrible. It's a horrible model. FEI, FEI. FEI dumps the prices because that's one of those protocols that simply sends the Uniswap when there's a liquidation. They have this feature called reweighting, which performs those trades. It just further dumps the price and other people get liquidated. It's stupid. Cello or Cello, CELO. What it does is it takes the fees that people pay to get loans and stuff, and it uses that to try and stabilize itself. Why? Why is there not a simple arbitrage that everyone can do to stabilize their price, right? So that's stupid. And then you get Terra. Somebody asked about Terra. That's one of those things that all it does is inflate and deflate and inflate and deflate and try and stabilize the price. All of these other stablecoins, they're either highly centralized or they have all sorts of different flaws in it. I encourage people to look at the liquidity protocol and how it maintains its peg to $1 and fully understand, like, it is literally the best way, the smoothest way to make a stablecoin and a lending protocol. And it follows the price of ETH. Stack and ETH chart on top of that loan, their version of the loan token, the liquidity token. You actually see, oh, as ETH price goes up, people desire the loan token because the fees go up. As ETH price goes down, people are selling out of the liquidity token because they're collecting less fees. But people are collecting like the APY, Dune Analytics. You need to go to Dune Analytics and check out what the returns on
Is
these
that
things are.
DOON or just do?
DUNE
DUNN. Okay.
Analytics, and just type in like liquidity protocol. It's insane what the yields are over there when you stake over there. Like, you could stake the stablecoin, and I think the average is like 16%. And all you're doing is, and by stake I mean in the stability pool. So you just take USDL or LUSD over, you put it in the stability pool. Right now, like, the average is like 16% yield for that. Like, where else can you get a yield that high for a stable coin? Nowhere. You're not going to get it on Celsius. You'll get an 8.5% over there. Aave, you'll only get like maybe a 1.5 to 2.5%. Liquidity, you're going to get a 16, like, you're getting a 16%. That's insane. That's insane for a stable coin. And then if in the staking side of things, the yields get even better. I think they get up into like 25, 30%. I think that average from the beginning though is like 200% for a year. So, and imagine what you're doing when you're earning all those, like, the fees from the protocol. What if you're just compounding it back into itself, doing feedback loops? So constantly, every time somebody takes a loan, you're going to collect a piece of that fee. Are you just going to sit on that stable coin? Say, oh, sweet, I made some stable coin today because people were taking loans. Are you just going to sit on that and let it do nothing? Or are you going to, like, click the claim button, have it in your wallet ready, and then just go drop it somewhere else so you're earning off of it immediately? So if you start compounding as quickly as you can, or as often as makes sense, the APYs, they start getting like ridiculous when you're compounding this money. And we're talking about this is going to be on a brand new blockchain that's likely to appreciate in price severely, just like all the other new blockchains did. So
you look at what Sushi Swap has done, and it's not way big. I think it did like, I don't know, 191 billion or something in transaction fees or whatever. And just seeing what, I mean, PulseChain easily. I mean, from what I've heard, there's going to be more liquidity. Transaction fees are going to be faster. More people are going to be using it. Tokens are going to be burned as that's happening, which is just going to increase the price. Just super, super powerful. Speaking of, I've got a question right here. Or somebody asks, will there be a private sell of the loan tokens? And if
Nope,
so, how can we whitelist?
nope, so there's no private sale.
Okay.
The next stage is what's called the sacrifice phase. You participate in your belief that there should be a better stablecoin system. And the addresses that participate in that would receive, you know, points that could equate to loan tokens.
Okay.
So but it's literally not a sale, but there is a sacrifice phase.
Right.
And you can learn more about that by going to the Telegram t.me/liquid loans.
And there's a website too, right? Isn't it called Sacrifice? The
The
Sacrifice?
sacrifice.io.
Right. Cool. Here's another good question. Can you discuss how, if any, exceptions will be made for collateral during rare events such as flash crashes?
Cool. I like this question. Can you show me a flash crash on-chain? Or can you only show me a flash crash on a central exchange like Bybit or something like that?
Central exchange.
Right. So here's what happens. Like, this is a great question because I know this guy's going to learn something. So when you go to a place like KuCoin or Bybit or something like that, first off, the exchange has all the coins. It's their playground. It's kind of like a casino. All right. And the price feed that they're pulling is from the one single token pairing that you're participating in, right? So if it was like, some random token paired to ETH or whatever, and you put in a trade and there's this big order book, that's the only place that they're pulling the feed from. They're not pulling a feed from Uniswap, from the 40,000 other token pairings, or pulling a feed from, like, Bybit's not pulling a feed from KuCoin. KuCoin's not pulling a feed from Bybit. They literally are pulling a feed from themselves, and they hold all the coins. And they have a lot of those orders in there. And what happens is, like, literally, it does get manipulated. They will do some dumping when they see that, like in the futures markets. Oh, look at all these long positions. It's very simple. They simply sell. And it triggers what's called cascading liquidations, where this guy gets liquidated, which moves the price, which liquidates the next guy, which moves the price, which liquidates the next guy. And it gets faster and faster and faster. And it literally takes like just a split second, or at most 2 or 3 seconds. And you see this big giant scam wick. It's like the whole dang chart. Sometimes you even see, like, it's like, wow, look at Bitcoin. Bitcoin was, 35,000, and it scam wick down to 10K.
That's
like, it's like, what the heck? That's because the only place they're pulling the price feed is from themselves, and they have a little bit of ways that they can manipulate that. And it's like, it's ridiculous. Okay. So that's called a flash crash, but those sort of things only happen on exchanges. Now, when you go to places like Uniswap and you use a very liquid asset, such as a native coin like Ethereum, or even such things like Link, that may have like dozens and dozens and dozens of token pairings. Like, you want something that has pairings, stable coins, that's different, but like tokens that have just dozens and dozens of pairings, you don't see this. And you can't see that at, like, a protocol such as Liquid Loans is pulling its price feed from multiple places. It's aggregating all those prices together and time weighting averaging them. But it's also using decentralized oracles that are doing the same thing and kicking out any bad data, so that if a bad actor came in and tried to wick the price down on one of those pairings, it would just simply exclude that data. You would say, well, that's not accurate. Or the time weighted average part of the protocol would say, Well, over a period of time, an average across all these token pairings, this is what the price is supposed to be. And you'll never see a whale that's able to like manipulate the price across dozens and dozens of token pairings and hold the price down for more than 30 minutes. It can't happen. It's impossible. Because like the same reason I described where people are coming in buying cheap USDC, if you see somebody trying to manipulate the price down for even like 60 seconds, like there are other people coming in behind trying to buy it back up again, bring it back up. So like this is the power of blockchain in general, that like it's really hard to get these kind of these scam wicks and these flash crash sort of things that you're talking about.
Stay away from exchanges. That's the lesson
Stay away
here.
from exchange.
Right. Here's another question I've got for you, Jesse. Kush says, so many chains like PulseX are faster than Ethereum. DeFi itself has moved off Ethereum to negate gas fees. It seems its current value lies in all the tokens built on it. What are your thoughts on the long-term sustainability of ETH, and is PulseX the Ethereum killer?
So PulseChain is the name of the chain. PulseX is actually the DEX, the trading
DEX, yeah.
platform. Yeah. So you see this with a lot of chains. This is how most chains get their value. So Matic started empty. There was nothing over there. And what happens is like people have to bridge through into Matic. It's pretty cool how these bridges work actually. Imagine two different blockchains. You know this one's faster and you want to go over there. You bring in an asset. We'll use Link as an example. You go to a bridge. That bridge will lock your token into a pool. And the bridge contract will mint you a replica version, basically, of that. It'll still be called Link. It'll still have the same ticker symbol. And it'll spit that out in your wallet address on the Matic chain or whatever chain you're going to. So it's a lockup. It pulls the original, and the bridge will mint a replica of that. Now you're running around on the Matic chain. Okay. That link is always directly redeemable. So you bring that link back. If anybody ends up with that link on the Matic chain and they want to go the other direction back to ETH, all they got to do is they go back through the bridge and that link burns itself. And it releases out of that pool the link back like in their wallet address on the ETH chain. That's how a bridge works. It's a lockup and a mint and then a burn and a release going the other way. Doesn't that sound familiar? That sounds a lot like the lockup and a mint of the lockup pulse and mint stablecoin. And if you're going to pay it back, a burn and then a release. It's the same exact mechanism. That's what bridges are doing when you go between two different blockchains. So yes, you do find that coins end up going through these bridges. And then, but what's interesting is the liquidity. Once you end up on a chain, you still have to have a liquidity pool to go trade that thing that you bridged in. And usually those liquidity pools are not as big as the liquidity pools on Ethereum. So the slippage is higher. So even though the gas fees are lower, if you're going over there and you have a sizable trade that you're going to do, you'll take more slippage. So you saved on gas fees, but now you have more slippage because liquidity pools are smaller, right? So that is a challenge. I've seen it on Phantom Chain. It's like, wow, why is there an 8% slippage on this little trade here? So like you lose the money again that you would have saved from the gas fee. Now, not all the time. It's not like, oh, I'm at a net zero effect. There's still positives to being on some of these little side chains. But it's not as good as people think. They're faster. Usually the fees are cheaper, but then there's higher slippage because the liquidity pools are thinner. But that also leaves arbitrage. So then there's always arbitrage going back and forth between the two chains. Oh, look, there's slippage over here. So that link is now cheaper on Matic chain. Let me go buy some of that on Matic chain, bridge it back over to Ethereum chain, go sell it over there. So Ethereum's never going to be killed. It's like it's just not possible.
Do you think the key with like PulseChain and it being better than any other chain is because we believe it's going to have more liquidity? Because I look at like Phantom, Polygon, Binance Smart Chain, the fees are so low, but what you're saying is the slippage is going to be higher overall because the liquidity is lower. Like
So
I'm
when
trying to figure out. Yeah.
Yeah, so PulseChain is launching like everything just already exists over there.
Okay.
That doesn't mean that those things are worth the same dollar value that they were over on Ethereum chain, but at least they're there. And everybody in existence on the Ethereum chain, when PulseChain goes live, can just change one little setting in their MetaMask wallet, and they will see all their assets over on the PulseChain. That's what makes it better. It is the largest airdrop in history, literally, quite literally. And it gets everybody looking at whatever they're doing over on ETH. And they're like, oh, wait a minute. I hear I have coins over on this.
So you're telling me they can just go to the other chain and all their assets are just going to be sitting there just
yes,
by default.
yes. All you have to do,
Okay.
it's so easy too. All you have to do is go
Well,
to
no other
MetaMask.
chain, no other chain has done that. Binance Smart
other-
Chain hasn't done it.
no.
Like no other chain has done that to provide that sort of kind of incentive. All you got to do is go to your MetaMask, install new RPC rule, configuration, what new network, and like all your tokens are going to just show up right there.
Yeah. All you have to do is go to the RPC settings in MetaMask, put in the PulseChain settings,
Wow.
and
That's
all
awesome.
your stuff is there. Even your NFTs. Your NFTs are now residing on, if you own NFTs, you now have the same NFTs on two different blockchains.
So that's naturally going to bring a lot of liquidity from Ethereum just over.
Yeah, so people are like, oh wow,
I
what's
get it
this?
now. Okay.
Like, who can resist? Who can resist when you tell, like we're telling everybody now, like you have dozens or hundreds or thousands or whatever of followers. They have Ethereum assets. I don't think there would be a single one of the people listening right now that isn't going to change the RPC settings and see what they have in their wallet over on the PulseChain when PulseChain goes live. And what they'll
And
see
then
is
use it because the transaction fees are going to be lower.
everything they have currently or at the time of the fork will be on the PulseChain ready for them to do stuff with. Like, well, who's going to ignore that? Nobody's going to ignore that.
It's crazy how they're able to do
So
that.
it literally just gets everybody on the chain just like that. Because instead of forking empty, you forked complete. You just forked and made us a side chain or layer one, and it has everything already there.
So how do we capture people that are on other chains to get them over to Pulse? Not just Ethereum.
Well, there's actually a couple ways. One is you just make bridges between all these different chains, which will be coming. I've spoken to other teams that are building bridges. But the other way is when I explained how bridging works between Ethereum and Matic, those ERC20s that are in the pool backing, the replica version over on Matic, those are going to get a copy too, right? Because those are currently still on Ethereum chain, and the entire Ethereum net state is being copied. Who's going to get those PRC20 copies? Well, that's actually going to be the Matic Bridge team. So they have a choice they can make at this point. They can use their keys on the Pulse chain, withdraw all of those PRC20s, and distribute them in some fashion to the Matic community, who probably should be saying, hey, can I have my copies, please? Right? And they should be like hitting up the devs and saying, hey, you know about PulseChain. We know you know about PulseChain. What are you going to do with all those copies? Are you going to keep them for yourself, or are you going to give them to the community like you should, right? If all of the different bridge devs across all these different chains, if their communities are like, hey, give us our coins. And then there's other, what about tokens that are like in various staking protocols that are locked up and this and that? Like, people should be saying to their communities, hey, you guys know about PulseChain? Like, everybody listening right now, whatever protocols that you like to participate in, you need to be saying, hey, did you know we're gonna, like, your code and everything's going to be copied over to PulseChain? And they may say, oh, we have no idea what you're talking about. Like, you need to be making a big deal about this, because literally everybody, thousands upon thousands of people, all of the wallet addresses on ETH are getting copies. And the teams that aren't paying attention, they're going to get left behind. They're going to get left in the dust when, like, literally millions of people migrate over, not, and don't necessarily leave Ethereum, but are now also playing around on the Pulse chain. And now these dev teams are scrambling to make their stuff work. Okay, their code's already there. All they got to do is fix a couple settings, maybe their front ends, point their front ends to the Pulse chain, and make available their whatever front ends those things have, those tokens have, like, fix their stuff so that it runs correctly on the Pulse chain, because the tokens will be there. And if you don't fix your front ends and maybe whatever backend code you need to, guess what's going to happen to you? Your customers are going to go to the Pulse chain. They're going to realize that you have not fixed your stuff. They're going to be looking at their wallets and they're just going to dump on your head. Your own customers will dump on you as a dev team if you do not go over to Pulse chain and participate. And I would venture to say most of those dev teams are large bag holders. You will get dumped on, and your stuff will just get dumped for things that do work on the Pulse chain, such as liquid loans, such as PulseX, such as PulseCoin, such as Hex, Richard Hart projects.
Right.
There's other things that'll be on the chain. There's Pulseverse. It's an NFT platform. There's something I hear about called like Power City. There's like a handful of things, 10 or 20 different projects that we know are launching on the Pulse chain that will work. And I can't vouch for any one of them except for, liquid loans. But the projects that are late from Ethereum chain, you will get dumped on by your own community if you don't participate. So people should be reaching out to their favorite projects,
That's
letting
awesome.
them know what's going on. Like, this is literally a big deal. It's literally the biggest airdrop in the world.
Well, I've learned so much just by listening to you the past hour and a half. And it's like, I would love to listen another hour and a half, but I don't know if you got family or kids you got to get back to. But anyways, I wanted to see if we have like maybe a couple more questions and then we can go ahead and wrap this up. Again, appreciate you so much for your time and, your dedication to making, this truly a decentralized world, which is, the overall goal. Mark says, thank you. A bunch of other people, I'm sure, are going to be coming in saying, thank you so much for jumping on. Do we have any last questions before we go ahead and jump off here? Again, if you're watching the recording of this, please give the video a like, subscribe to the channel. We're going to be doing a lot more AMAs like this, updates on what's going on with PulseChain liquid loans. Daniel says, epic call. Awesome, Daniel. And everything's going to be in the description from their Telegram group. Go in there, ask questions, connect. And of course, they've got their referral program, which is pretty awesome. Anything that I've been a part of that's been not only a good project, but has a great referral program, always does extremely well. So Edward says, awesome AMA. Awesome. Cool, man. Well, let's see. Chris says, and this will be the final question. Thoughts on PulseChain versus PulseX and how Liquid Loans plans to capitalize on the hype of both, I'm assuming.
Okay, well, PulseChain is a cheaper, faster blockchain. It's got the largest airdrop in the world. It is going to get a lot of hype. People are going to come over, and Some people are going to dump and leave. Some people are going to dump and
Always
stay.
happens.
It's going to have a net positive, right? There's going to be more people that stay than leave. I think it's going to do very well. Now, PulseX is the swapping platform of the blockchain. This would be a whole nother hour-long conversation, but we can't get into all of it now.
Watch Richard Hart's videos. Go over to his channel. That's what I do.
But it is pretty. It is epic how the supply difference between Ethereum and its supply versus PulseCoin and its supply is handled. And basically, it's a bot that goes and it buys up all the liquidity from all the different dexes. It takes all those ERC20s, now PRC20s. It pairs them against PulseCoin and it puts them into PulseX, which means PulseX swapping platform now owns or holds almost all of the liquidity, that all of the other dexes used to have, right? So OneEdge or Matcha, that's just an aggregator, or Uniswap, like all these different dexes have gotten way smaller in their token counts, and PulseX now holds it all, right? So now everyone uses PulseX, but why would you want to use PulseX? Well, or why would you want to own the coin in there? Well, there's a fee, there's a buy and burn mechanism. There's some really cool yield farming rewards and stuff. It's very much like Pancake, with some of the yields and like how it all works. But yeah, there's going to be a lot of hype even with PulseX. So PulseChain should be successful. PulseX should be successful. The projects that are known to be launching on PulseChain should be successful. Hex, a couple of these NFT platforms, any projects that have said that they're going to migrate over from Ethereum, liquid loans. We're offering a way so nobody has to sell. You literally don't have to sell. Capture all that appreciation in price without ever losing one single coin, if you choose. And or collect the fees, or collect the fees from people doing that.
Right. Awesome. Sweet, man. I think wrap it up there. Thank you so much, everybody, for jumping on. Jesse, once again, thanks so much for your time. And yeah, guys, subscribe, like the video. If you guys have any questions, jump in their Telegram group. There's somebody there to reach out. I mean, when I reached out for this AMA, there was somebody there about 2 minutes later, hooked up with Jesse, and here we are. So thanks so much, you guys. Appreciate you guys for jumping on here, and we'll see you guys in the next one. Take care.